There's a question that quietly haunts a lot of men, one they rarely say out loud. What do you do when you're drawn to someone who doesn't seem to feel the same way? What happens when you look at her and the odds feel completely stacked against you? The truth is, attraction is rarely as final as it seems in those early moments. A woman who shows no interest today is not always a woman who will feel nothing tomorrow. Sometimes all it takes is one small shift, one quiet change in how you carry yourself or how you show up in a room, and something in her begins to move in a direction it never had before. So if you've ever stood across from someone and quietly convinced yourself you had no chance, stay with this. Because what you're about to hear has the power to completely change the way you approach that situation. Every single person on this earth deserves to be truly seen and genuinely loved. And more often than not, the difference between invisibility and connection is not luck. It's awareness. It's a handful of quiet, deliberate choices that most men never even consider. That's exactly what this is about. Not cheap tricks or surface-level tactics, but real psychological tools, emotional intelligence, and the kind of inner confidence that makes a woman stop and take notice even when she had no intention of doing so. So instead of waiting for the right moment to magically appear, let's talk about how to build it yourself. How presence, scent, calm energy, and emotional depth can completely rewrite the story she's told herself about you. Let's begin with something that sounds simple, but carries extraordinary weight: the way you look at her. Not just any glance, not a nervous flicker of the eyes, but something deliberate, warm, and emotionally alive. Most men underestimate eye contact because they think of it as just part of conversation. But used with real intention, it becomes one of the most powerful forms of communication available to you. Here's something worth knowing. Neuroscience has shown that when you look directly into a woman's left eye during a conversation, it can actually trigger the release of oxytocin in her brain. That's the hormone connected to deep bonding, emotional trust, and intimacy. It's the same chemical released during a close embrace or a moment of real vulnerability between two people. It builds a feeling of safety and connection that no amount of clever words can fully replicate. So the next time you're with her, breathe, slow everything down, and let your gaze rest softly on her left eye. Not in a way that feels intense or unsettling, but in a way that communicates something wordless and real. That you're fully present, that you respect her, that she matters. That kind of look stays with a person. Because while words can be rehearsed and performances can be put on, the eyes almost always tell the truth. And when your eyes carry warmth, steadiness, and genuine care, you become the kind of man she thinks about later without quite knowing why. Now let's talk about something that most conversations about attraction skip over entirely: your scent. Research consistently shows that men who wear a fragrance that suits them don't just feel more self-assured, they actually register as more attractive to the women around them. And the reason goes deeper than preference. Scent is wired directly into the part of the brain that stores emotional memory. When you find a fragrance that genuinely fits who you are, not something overwhelming or generic, but something quiet, clean, and distinctly yours, it becomes an invisible part of your identity in her mind. Picture this. You're not even in the room. She's somewhere else entirely, and she catches a faint trace of something familiar. The same scent you were wearing the last time you were close to her, and in that single instant, you cross her mind. That's not a coincidence. That's the power of scent as a psychological anchor. It connects emotion to memory, memory to you. So choose something that reflects your actual character. If you're calm and grounded, lean towards something woody or warm and earthy. If you carry a little more intensity and mystery, something with dark spice or deep citrus might be your signature. These small decisions create an intimate impression without a single word being spoken. Now here's something that stops a lot of men before they even get started. Anxiety, the nervous energy that surfaces when you approach someone who doesn't seem especially interested. And the honest answer is that nervousness is completely normal. But you don't have to white-knuckle your way through it. There are natural ways to bring your nervous system back to baseline. L-theanine, an amino acid found in green tea, calms mental noise without dulling your sharpness. It keeps you alert but relaxed. Ashwagandha is another one. It works by reducing cortisol, the hormone your body produces under stress, which means you stay steadier when the pressure is on. And magnesium glycinate supports deep, restorative sleep and eases physical tension, so you wake up feeling prepared rather than already depleted. When you're genuinely relaxed, the version of you that shows up is the real one, the one that's actually magnetic. Because attraction doesn't flow from a man who is monitoring his every move and second-guessing every word. It flows from a man who is grounded, real, and at ease in his own skin. So let's say the moment actually arrives. Maybe she agreed to meet up. Maybe you finally have a real chance to let her see you differently. Before that even begins, do one thing. Call someone who loves you without condition. A parent, a close friend, a sibling, someone whose voice immediately reminds you of who you actually are. The reason this works is not sentimental, it's biological. Hearing a familiar, caring voice activates the part of your nervous system responsible for calm and safety. It pulls your body out of fight or flight and into a state of ease. It reminds you at the deepest level that your value does not depend on whether she approves of you. And when you walk through that door carrying that energy, grounded, unhurried, genuinely at ease, something different radiates from you. A quiet self-assurance that has nothing to do with arrogance, the kind of man who doesn't need the night to go perfectly because he already knows who he is. Women feel that immediately. It registers before you say a word, and it makes her feel something she didn't expect to feel. Now let's talk about the date itself. The most common approach is also the least effective. Dinner across a table, a movie in the dark, coffee with small talk. These are comfortable defaults, but they don't create the emotional movement you need to shift how she sees you. What you actually want is an experience that generates real feeling. Not manufactured romance, but genuine emotional aliveness. Something that makes her heart beat a little faster, her curiosity sharpen, her guard drop without her even realizing it. Think about a spontaneous drive to somewhere with a view, a challenging escape room, axe throwing, dancing, a live event she wouldn't expect, a strange and fascinating art installation. The reason this works is deeply psychological. When two people share an emotionally heightened experience, the brain tends to attach those feelings to the person they experienced it with. Psychologists call this the misattribution of arousal. When her pulse quickens and you're the one standing next to her, her mind begins to associate that feeling with you. And suddenly, you're no longer the person she had quietly categorized as just a friend. You're something she hasn't fully figured out yet. While you're with her, pay attention to something beyond the conversation. How you treat everyone else in the room, the person serving your drinks, the stranger you bump into near the entrance. The way you handle those moments speaks loudly. It tells her whether your confidence is real or performed. True ease doesn't save itself for the person it's trying to impress. It's consistent. It's present everywhere. When she watches you move through a space with warmth, calm, and natural respect for the people around you, she sees a man who is socially solid, someone who can be trusted in any room. That's not just attractive, it's deeply reassuring. When it comes time to handle the bill, don't make a moment of it. Don't announce it, don't signal it, don't reach for it with a dramatic flair designed to be noticed. Instead, wait for a natural moment when her attention is elsewhere, perhaps when she steps away briefly, and settle it quietly. Say nothing about it afterward. This isn't about pretending the gesture didn't happen. It's about what that quiet action communicates, that you're someone who gives without needing recognition, who handles situations without needing to be applauded for it. When she returns and realizes what happened without you having said a word, something shifts. She feels it. Not just appreciation, but a kind of respect that arrives unexpectedly and stays. And when the evening ends, resist what almost every instinct will tell you to do. Don't go for the kiss. Not yet. This might be the most counterintuitive piece of advice in all of this, but restraint is almost always more powerful than urgency. Instead, end the night with something warm but understated. A genuine hug. A simple, honest statement that you had a good time, and then let her go home with an unanswered question hanging in her mind. What comes next? That question is worth more than any physical move you could have made. It creates anticipation. It gives her something to sit with, something to look forward to, something to wonder about. Emotional gravity begins in the space between what happened and what might. Now, let's go deeper, because none of this reaches its full potential without something underneath it. A real shift in how you see yourself and what you're building. Most men who struggle with attraction are focused entirely outward. What does she think? What does she feel? How do I win her over? But the most attractive version of you doesn't come from that place. It comes from a quiet revolution happening inside. Women are consistently drawn to men who are actively becoming. Not men who have arrived at some finished ideal, not men who are wealthy or famous, but men who are genuinely growing. That's where Stoicism becomes relevant. Not as emotional suppression, not as cold detachment, but as the practice of mastering your reactions, of staying centered when things don't go the way you hoped, of building a kind of inner calm that doesn't depend on external outcomes. When a woman senses that you're not rattled by her indifference, that your sense of worth doesn't hinge on her response, something in her perception quietly rearranges. You become unfamiliar to her, different from what she's used to, and that difference pulls. So work on becoming that man, not for her sake, but because you owe it to yourself. Read more. Move your body with intention. Set real goals and meet them. Practice sitting with stillness rather than constantly reaching for distraction. Remove the habits that chip away at your confidence, the aimless scrolling, the comparison, the quiet desperation. Because when you're genuinely centered, when your life has direction and your energy carries purpose, women sense it without being told, and they lean toward it. There's another force worth understanding: psychological tension, the quiet electricity that builds between two people when one of them is genuinely present, but not entirely available. Not playing games, but not overextending either. It's the feeling she gets when she's with you and realizes you're not trying to convince her of anything. You're simply there, comfortable in yourself, completely at ease with however the moment unfolds. That quality is rare. Most men pour themselves out completely, overtalk, over-explain, overshare, try too hard. But the men who stay in a woman's mind long after they're gone are the ones who seem to have more going on inside than they're showing. The ones who listen more than they speak, who choose their words with care and then let them land, who allow silence to do its work. When you carry that kind of presence, she starts to wonder. She leans forward just slightly. She wants to know more. And when she's thinking about you more than you're thinking about her, something fundamental has shifted. Here's another way to think about how you speak. Don't talk with the goal of impressing her. Talk with the goal of being honest. Slow down. Let your words breathe. Let there be real pauses. Talk about what actually matters to you, what moves you, what you're genuinely building. When you speak from that grounded, self-respecting place instead of reaching for something to say that sounds good, you begin to sound unlike everyone else she's met. That voice, that energy, follows a person home. And never underestimate this. What she needs to feel before anything else is safe. If she didn't initially respond to you, it's very possible it wasn't about attraction at all. It was about the absence of emotional safety. Before a woman opens her heart, she needs to feel that she can trust the person she's opening it to. So everything you do, from how you listen to how you handle a moment of disagreement to how you hold a door open without making it a gesture, all of it should quietly reinforce a single feeling. You are safe here. I'm not here to take anything from you. I genuinely want to understand you. When she feels that, her walls come down naturally. And when they do, she begins to see you in a way she simply couldn't before. Let this land. Attraction is far more about the energy you carry than the effort you apply. You can plan the perfect evening, say the right things, check every box. But if the energy underneath all of it is anxious and needy, she will feel it before you've done a single thing. Conversely, if your energy is grounded, purposeful, calm, and quietly certain, she will feel that too. So stop chasing. Start being someone worth discovering. You've moved through all of it now. The intentional eye contact that activates something chemical and real. The scent that becomes part of her memory of you. The quiet social confidence that requires no announcement. The emotional experience that rewires how she sees you. The restraint that builds more attraction than urgency ever could. And beneath all of it, the deeper truth, Real attraction doesn't come from clever tactics. It comes from emotional gravity. You don't argue a woman into feeling something. You don't perform your way into her heart. You become someone whose presence shifts her experience of the world around her. The mistake most men make is trying to convince, trying to be more entertaining, more impressive, more of something they think she wants. But that's not how this works. When a woman is truly drawn to a man, it's not because he made a compelling case for himself. It's because being around him felt different. And that feeling, she can't quite explain it, but she can't ignore it either. So become the man who doesn't chase, but draws. The man who doesn't fill silence out of nervousness, but holds it with confidence. The man who smiles with his whole face, listens without planning his next line, and respects his own inner life enough to protect it. That man doesn't need to campaign for love. He becomes the kind of person love moves toward. Let her be curious. Let her sit with questions she doesn't fully have answers to. Why didn't he push for more at the end of the night? Why do I feel so at ease around him even though I barely know him? Why does a passing scent bring him to my mind? Why am I checking to see if he's reached out when I didn't even care before? That curiosity is emotional momentum. Let it build. Let her lean toward it. Because the moment you shift from being someone in pursuit to being someone worth pursuing, the entire dynamic changes. She's no longer deciding whether she's interested. She's trying to figure out why she already is. And here's the thing, most women will never say directly, but always feel deeply. What determines a man's value in her eyes is not how he presents himself. It's how she feels about herself when she's with him. Does she feel genuinely seen? Does she feel understood without having to explain everything? Does she feel like she matters, not because of what you said, but because of how your presence treats her? If the answer is yes, she won't just be attracted to you. She will respect you. And that respect is what real, lasting attraction is built on. So here's where everything lands. You don't need every person to choose you. You don't even need her specifically to feel something right now. What you need is to become so emotionally grounded, so clear in your sense of self, so quiet in your confidence that when she finally does pay attention, it's not because you earned it through performance. It's because you became impossible to overlook. The next time you find yourself across from someone who doesn't seem to see you yet, don't retreat. Don't chase. Don't let resentment quietly take root. Just stand in your own energy, look at her with warmth, and let yourself know that she simply hasn't had the chance to understand who you actually are. But she will. If something here shifted something in you, share it with someone who could use it. Or drop a thought below about which part hit closest to home. Because this conversation is worth continuing.